Hi there. Today I wanted to show a quick demonstration of my learning process. Especially as we spend our days scrolling, I find that if you can gamify it a little bit and turn it into a hunt for information that can be very valuable to you, it completely changes the way you relate to online content. So today I want to demonstrate a simple technique that I like to use to make learning more fun, more effective, and really quite skillful. So it all starts with something called a second brain. If you're not familiar with the concept, a second brain is kind of like an internal Wikipedia page that you create just for yourself. I personally like the software Notion, and if you're a little more technologically advanced, you might like the software Obsidian. And so I've made an example one here. Let's say it just has these two entries, French New Wave Cinema and Jackson Pollock. But today I want to learn about something different. I want to learn about jazz music. Like you, I don't know a lot about jazz, and I feel like I should. Now, this is where the process gets a little unique. When you want to learn a new thing, you almost invariably know at least a few things about that topic. I recommend starting with what you already know about the topic. So, jazz music. What is it? Well, I know, for example, that it's highly improvisational. I know that some common instruments are the saxophone, the trumpet, piano, drums. I can think of some famous jazz musicians, Duke Ellington, John Coltrane, and then naturally I'm led to my first questions about the topic. What else do I want to know about jazz? Well, I want to know, how did jazz start? I want to know, who are the most famous jazz musicians? And I want to know, what is the structure of a jazz song? So now let's get into the research phase. What I do is this. I find a couple of resources on the topic, and I look for things that are authoritative. I'm not really going to get into that here, but try and pick things that are trustworthy. So I have 3 entries. And then, this is where my approach is kind of unique. I recommend sorting your resources from shortest to longest. So why do I want you to start with the shortest? Well, for one, it's the most time saving. No matter when you have to get pulled away from this research, I want you to have the most information that you can. The top 20% of facts about jazz music, say, are going to occur 80% of the time. And so if you start with the shortest research, you're actually covering far more than a representative sample. You're actually going to get pretty far into the main bones of the topic. So, a brief history of jazz. I won't make you sit with me as I read this whole thing, but we can see how its very first thing, its origins, is directly relevant to me because I've already asked, how did jazz start? Okay, where did jazz begin? Jazz began in New Orleans. And so look, it's also answered some of the famous musicians. So let's add some of those. And the idea is not to get this perfect. We're going for a just kind of a take what you can approach. That's all I'm going to take from this resource, and I can come back to it. Maybe I'll just link it at the bottom here. Maybe I'll have a resources tab as well. And then I'm going to move on to the next one. We're moving from the broadest possible outline to more and more detail. So now this is the next longest resource in this. Okay, we can kind of see in broad strokes. Jazz begins in the early 1900s. We have big band in the 1920s and 30s. There's bebop in the 40s and 50s. And in the 60s, we have post-bebop. Okay, again, I'm not going to try and be comprehensive here. I'm just going to try and get some stuff. I'm going to say maybe the history. We're going to say eras of jazz. 1900s. beginning. 1920s, big band. 1940s, bebop. 1960s, post-bebop. What does it sound like? Great. So this is already going to help answer my question. What is the structure of a jazz song? Jazz is known for its distinctive rhythms. It's known for its harmonic sophistication and its improvisation. Okay, right, okay. So let's say some of its distinctive structure is its use of improvisation. I've already said it above here. Its use of distinctive rhythms, and then complex chords. And so you can see, okay, I'm starting to augment my understanding. Oh, and great, jazz instruments. Already, some of the basic questions I have asked are some of the first things that are answered. I already named a couple of these, so I'll add bass, guitar, and vocals. Great, done with that resource. And you can just keep moving on up. You can see how there's some redundancy here too. So for example, this implicitly named some musicians that were already addressed in the previous one. And so as I move from resource to resource, I can also use them to cross-check. I'll pause there, but you can see how this process really helps you efficiently learn a lot. In the last 10, 15 minutes, we've already built up a very simple understanding of jazz that we can continuously augment as we selectively research more and more things. Because it's hyperlinked, like a Wikipedia page, you can create new that are then linked to this page. So let's say I really wanted to more distinctly understand bebop music. What I'm going to do is create a bebop page here. And now I can more specifically research bebop. So hopefully you've got just a really brief overview of how I learn new things very quickly. Feel free to ask questions in the comment section below and tell me how you like to learn. Thanks.